Hey everyone, it's Sammy from Push Square, and I bet you're wondering whether the Banned Footage Volume 1 DLC, which released for Resident Evil 7 this week, is any good. Well, fortunately I'm in a position where I can answer that question because I played through it last night, but there is a big elephant in the room that needs to be addressed first, and that is whether this should be DLC at all. Now, it is releasing a week after the game itself, and I do think that this is a little bit of a cash grab from Capcom because this content probably could and probably should have been in the main game itself, and it's a shame that it isn't because the content is actually so good that it would have elevated what is already a very good single player campaign in Resident Evil 7, and it's disappointing that the publishers decided to pull these out and sell them separately. I think the VHS tapes that are in the main game are one of the best bits about it, and there are too few of them, so this adds 2 more and an extra mode. So with that addressed, let's get to the actual content itself. So the first tape is called Nightmare, and this sees you play as the Sewer Gators cameraman Clancy, who many of you will be familiar with if you've played through the main game. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it fills in parts of his story, and this takes place shortly after he's been split up from his crew, and Jack has captured him and put him in the basement. And this is kind of like an arcade mode. It's a little bit like Mercenaries. If you've been missing a Mercenaries mode in Resident Evil 7, then this is going to really appeal to you. Basically, it's set in the basement. You have to survive until dawn. And enemies are going to come and attack you, and you have to collect scraps by turning on these machines which kind of generate little bits of metal and whatnot, shrapnel and stuff, and that works as a currency, so that you can then use that currency to go to the workbench and buy new weapons, buy ammunition, buy medkits, and buy sort of skill upgrades which help you to move quicker and stuff like that. You can also purchase traps that are littered around the basement. These all help you fend off the moulded threat, and this is really fun. It's kind of like a roguelike type mode, but there's a bit of persistence, so the score that you get at the end of your run, whether you complete it or whether you die too early, the score you get is added to an overall tally, and this then unlocks sort of upgrades that you can take into the next time you play through. So this may be the availability of a new weapon at the workbench, or it may be that you start with extra medkits which puts you on the front foot right from the off. So I really like this mode. It's really replayable. It really emphasises the combat of Resident Evil 7. Now, if you didn't like the combat in Resident Evil 7, you're probably not going to get that much out of it, but I actually quite like the first-person shooting in the game, and I really enjoy the roguelike aspect to this mode. I've played quite a lot of Nightmare, but the other VHS tape also picks up on Clancy's story, and this takes place a little further into his timeline, and this sees him captured by Marguerite, who is trying to make him eat his supper. He's kind of chained in the master bedroom. The master bedroom, of course, you'll be familiar with from the main game, and I really like what they've done here. This isn't as replayable as the Nightmare tape, but it's just as fun in a different way. This is kind of a puzzle room, so what you have to do is find a way to escape from the bedroom without alerting Marguerite's suspicions. So I don't want to spoil anything, but there are moments where you may need to, for example, interact with a clock, and its sort of alarm will go off. And when the alarm goes off, Marguerite hears that, and then she comes to look for you. And what you have to do is kind of put everything in the room back in place and get back into bed so that she doesn't notice that you've been sort of snooping around and trying to find an escape. And it's really tense. It's brilliantly well done. There is a bit of trial and error to this mode, but once you figure it out, you're going to feel really good. Like I say, you're probably not going to want to replay it that many times because the solution is sort of fixed, and once you know the solution, that's kind of it. But I had a lot of fun with this. It took me about half an hour to an hour to figure it out properly, without alerting Marguerite's suspicions at all. So that's a good chunk of content, especially when you pair it with the Nightmare mode, which you can replay for quite a fair few hours actually. And you do get one extra mode on top of that, which is called Ethan Must Die. Now, this seems like a kind of throwaway extra. It doesn't even support PlayStation VR, but it's like a super hard, super challenging bonus mode where you play as Ethan under a blood red sky, and there are tons of moulded enemies. Item drops are random, and it's extremely difficult. I personally found this a bit unfair. I think that people that really like a challenge may get more out of it than I did. I wasn't a massive fan. There's a Dark Souls-esque element to it, in that you can, if you find the place where you died, you'll retrieve one item that you had in your inventory previously, so that's a nice little touch. But I personally didn't get much out of Ethan Must Die. It was just too hard for me. But if you really like that super difficult kind of challenge, then you'll probably end up playing this quite a lot, and you will die a lot as well. So you get those three modes. It's a bit of a mismatch. It's not a very consistent collection of content, but I really like the 2 VHS tapes that you get. Even if you could argue they should have been in the main game, and there is more to come with Banned Footage Volume 2 on 14th of February. So is the season pass worth buying? Judging by the quality of what this first pack includes, I think it probably is. There's just that question mark over Capcom about whether this content should have been in the main game in the first place, but to its credit, it has got free DLC coming up as well, so it is doing right by people that bought the game at launch. And you couldn't exactly say that the main game was starved of content. Would it have been better with these 2 extra VHS tapes that have released of DLC in it? Yes, it would, but it was still a complete game at release, wasn't it? So, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I do think this DLC is pretty good though, and it's definitely worth checking out if you enjoyed the main game. But anyway, let me know if you're going to pick up Banned Footage Volume 1 in the comments section, and as always, thank you so much for watching.